Energy, the seed corn of all development, all growth, all survival, energy. So energy, transportation, information, and manufacturing, these are the things that change humanity, that will change world power, and they are descending upon us in ways that are very unique. The technology is on the engineering benches today, but most Americans and most in Congress have not had time to really look deeply at what's going on here. But I've had the benefit of 33 years of studying and becoming friends with these engineers and these scientists. This technology can be built today with technology that is not developmental to deliver any human being from any place on planet Earth to any other place in less than an hour. To deliver Wi-Fi from space, where you never need a cell tower to connect. To deliver energy from space, where you never have to plug your phone in and it trickle charges, and you can use that energy over time. It can be applied to cars, to houses. The technology of Edison and Tesla that we live with in our energy environment, our paradigm today, is expensive, it's dangerous, and it's wasteful. Plug it into the wall, but yet that's what we all do because we are used to paradigms. The power of space will change world power forever. And it doesn't have to be a big country to do it. It can be a small island country, let's say New Zealand. Because the technology, if optimized, can change world power, and there's nothing you can do if you don't have that power. The nature of power. You either have it and your values rule, or you do not have it and you must submit. We see that play out again and again in history, and it's playing out now.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we're going to take a deep dive into Project Looking Glass and how it actually relates to everything that we've been covering here on the Q boards. Q told us to take a closer look at it. We're going to try to understand its actual contextual meaning to what we are experiencing here. Is it a way to predict the future? And are we using that to manipulate the present to avoid a global disaster? You guys are going to want to stick around and hear that, plus a bunch of other breaking news stories. Hi, my name is Craig. Welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. Look, I always start by saying thank you. If you're here watching, thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you guys haven't done it yet, please come here, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you get notified as soon as these videos get posted. We always go and check the Q board to see what's been happening lately, and we're still in a holding pattern. It seems Q has gone silent ever since this whole major conflict has been growing in the Middle East with regard to our push against the Iranian regime in this final, I believe, push to complete a Iranian deal that involves peace and the destruction of their nuclear program, aka denuclearization. But with that, I just want to get right into the first thing that we're going to cover here. So this is where I'm starting, all right? And you see here, this is a graphic that's meant to give you an idea of what Project Looking Glass is. Now, a lot of you guys are out there thinking, Craig, Project Looking Glass, it's a top secret program. You know, we have teleportation machines and we, have little windows that you can look into the future with. And yeah, all that sounds pretty fantastic. And if you're looking at it objectively and trying to just be logic-based and follow the facts, it's hard to just jump to the conclusion that, yeah, we're, interdimensionally shipping people from one planet to another, and we're able to have an argon gas laser, future telling orb that we look into to see the future. With that being said, I think there's an actual valid explanation for what Project Looking Glass is and how it pertains to what we've been doing here for so long, and how I think certain people inside of the military, government, etc., have access to a predictive capability that most people just don't have. Now, what you're seeing here is a very simplified explanation of what a project like Project Looking Glass could be able to do. Now, what is this showing us? Well, it's showing us a person or a point in time, a present point in time where you can look back, right? And you can look at all the different historical outcomes. And then you can look forward and understand what necessary steps there would be to achieve a desired outcome based off of a very complex analysis of previous historical outcomes. Now, what am I talking about here? Well, think about what a company like Google does, right? They're aggregators of information, of all information globally. They have taken and put all of the world's information into a digitally accessible platform. Now, why is this important? Well, it ties into some bigger things, if you think about it, like quantum computing and the idea that we have an ability to perform tasks simultaneously. And this is getting into the weeds of it all, so I'm not going to get too much into that, but the ability to compute very fast, to do a lot of operations in a very fast period of time. And you have seen the predictive capability of, I don't know, like for instance, we'll just take a real quick example. Think about the predictive capability of the analytics that are used in sports today, right? A lot of people who bet sports. I don't bet sports. I'm not suggesting that anyone should bet sports. But if you were to bet sports, you would use such things as, the stats of the players and the stats of the team and those things to make a predictive guess as to who will win and who will lose the game. Well, the same principle can be applied if you think about it to the idea of taking all of the information in the world from, past, present, and putting it together, and then using these AI computers, this very fast computing, quantum computing with a very specifically made AI program to actually draw out a map of future outcomes, right? And what do I mean by that? Well, quite simply put, it kind of gives you a better idea if you kind of look over here. So it's basically putting it all through a filter of, you have different historical outcomes, and then it leads to other historical outcomes. And this is where it gets into you needing the larger computing processing capability, because the AI runs, millions and millions, if not billions, trillions, however you count it, of operations per second, where it will take all of the inputs of a set of events, right? And it'll give you all of the possible outcomes, and it'll give you all the variable inputs for how to get to those possible outcomes. And it does this, within a very short period of time, relatively speaking. Who knows what the actual speeds and capabilities are, but it takes all of that information from different historical outcomes of the past, and then all of their subsequent, effects, like a domino effect, and then it calculates probabilities. And when it presents you with these probabilities, you, as the operator sitting in the present time using this technology, and this is all my theory, by the way. I'm not claiming to be an expert on Project Looking Glass. This is my understanding of it. There's a lot of people who will argue and say it's aliens and it's, projecting, machines from another dimension and all this stuff. But I'm going to just try to simplify it for everyone out there to give you an idea of what I think it is. And then I'll let you do the research to kind of figure it out for yourself. But that disclaimer aside, it takes all of that information from these historical outcomes, and then it shows you the necessary steps to achieve the desired outcomes for the future and what those possible outcomes look like. Now, why is this important to understand? Well, Q just told us a while ago, in November of 2019, the first time Q ever mentions Project Looking Glass is not here in this post. A lot of people are saying this is the first time Q ever mentioned it, but there's actually a very much earlier post that Q uses. Actually, one of the first posts Q puts up talks about looking through the glass. And why is that important? Because it was talking about this right here. Q post 9. This is projection. Dems can't lose control over the black population. At some point, the Great Awakening will occur, whereby these false local national black leaders are corrupt and paid off to help keep the black population poor and in need. Democrats formed the Confederate States against freeing slaves. Democrats formed the KKK. HRC's mentor is who? What happens if the truth about Haiti is released? Do Democrats lose majority of the vote? Through the looking glass, they rely on the MSM to keep the narrative going, but tech is entrenching on their controls. They missed this in 2016 and desperately are attempting to censor now due to CIA cash infusions, and this will fail. So think about what a person could do if they were to weaponize a system as what we are examining here with this incredible predictive capability, right? What if they were to game this system in the media and use it to know what stories to put out, to elicit the type of reactions they need, to get the voter outrage where it's necessary to mobilize the votes for your caucus, right? If you're working, let's say nefariously, you could use this to manipulate the masses. And it can be used for a whole myriad of other things. But for this, all intents and purposes, let's just focus on this as a specific example. And Q outlines it here saying they rely on the MSM to keep their narrative going, but tech is entrenching on their control. So think about what that means. The narrative was a way of them being able to take all these inputs and then have a predictive capability for the outcome of all of this. So they were able to predict, I believe, that Hillary would win. That's why Q keeps restating the fact that they never thought she would lose, because as far as they knew, they were looking at the traditional paradigm of the mainstream media controlling the sheep. The sheep would follow the stars. They had all the inputs in their, let's say, this predictive technology that they were using and weaponizing for their own benefit. Let's say they put all this information in there and the outcome was that Hillary would win 99% of the time. But the factors they didn't account for were obviously technology, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the ability of social media to have a viral nature to it that allows stories and narratives to be completely shattered, right? With the simplest of tweets. So this is something that they are desperate, I think Q is pointing out here, to try to change. And then if you look up at the latest post where Q mentions Project Looking Glass directly, it connects us to this tweet, right? Where this guy, Clark Petronov, says, dang, so that was an IP address, not a date, military position. And what is he talking about, of course, is if you look up all of the DoD network information as far as their IP addresses and the details that are connected to them, they all start with 11.11.18. Well, that was something that was very interesting if you think about it, and it connects back to 8kun, obviously. And this was something that we looked at before when this first came out. But now, putting it in the context of Project Looking Glass, it actually gives you another way of understanding the predictive capabilities of this technology, right? So diving deeper into this, you have to think to yourself, what does Q mean when he says going forward in order to look back? Well, this is very interesting. It ties in all of the concepts behind this and what was Alice? Why is Alice being referred to throughout this? I think a lot of people have speculated that Alice, and this is actually coming from one of these Twitter accounts, which is pretty intense if you want to follow it. It's called Majestic12. You can find them on Twitter, but they suggest that Alice was the AI net that was established by the Clinton regime, the Clinton, Bush, Obama, whatever you want to call it, globalist cabal regime, that was used to go out and span the entirety of the internet and plant stories, plant comments, as they say on the boards, shill and slide and do things that were meant to elicit an outcome, right? It was using the predictive capability. You can have all the predictive capability in the world, but then you have to have an asset. You have to have a tangible input that you can use to manipulate the situation to gain the outcome that you're looking for. Like here, it says the necessary steps to achieve the desired outcome. So it shows that to them. So they create an AI bot network that is meant to follow these necessary steps, but they didn't calibrate the machine correctly. I mean, this is all hypothetical too. So before you guys go start tearing me up down in the comments, just remember, I'm talking this out with you guys. I want you to do your own research. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm telling you what I think. And then hopefully I can learn more as we go, sharing that information. That's why I always go down and try to read through the comments and see what you guys are saying, because I want to learn more myself about all this. But I can tell you right now that without saying anything too revealing, I'm hearing from my sources, who are very good, that this is a very possible and probable scenario. And I'm not saying this exact scenario, but something very similar to it is very possible, and that this technology was stolen or basically was co-opted, weaponized, and then it was misused. Basically, like I said, they didn't calibrate it correctly, and they ended up losing power. And thank God they did, because now the Patriots are in control. Patriots are now in control. They have control of this equipment and understand its power. And I believe they're using it for good. What do I mean by that? Well, if you keep going forward here, you have Hillary Clinton tweeting out that we're in a climate emergency right on the heels of this story dropping, saying that John Huber's Hillary Clinton related investigation ends with no criminal charges and no interviews. So at first I read this story and I think, it's coming from the mainstream media. It's also being reported over here in the Washington Post. And as I was reading through it, I'm thinking to myself, well, what if there was more to this than we could even understand? Think about it in the term, just hypothetically, play this one out with me, because I'm, kind of theoretically saying, what if? And that doesn't mean I'm saying that this is true or anything, but I'm just trying to talk this out with you. Imagine if now the Patriots have this technology, we have this predictive capability. We can look into Project Looking Glass and understand that with all of the aggregated information from around the world, we can have this immense and incredible predictive capability. And it probably gets even more advanced when you get into the DARPA side of it with the, Majestic program. I mean, if you guys want to go research some people who talk about some of this stuff and get into some other even bigger crazy stuff that I don't have time for here on this episode, go look at people like Bob Lazar, look at the projects they were working on, or allegedly that they say they were working on, and understand that we have things. I just assume that the military and the government have things that are beyond what we can even imagine in sci-fi, most sci-fi these days. But that being said, imagine if somebody took this, the Patriots can take this system now, and we can have this predictive capability to look into the future and to see what would happen if certain things happen. So Hillary Clinton takes this job over in Belfast, and it almost seems like she's being kicked out of the country or, basically put into exile, if that makes more sense. But what if we could see the future, and the future predictions showed us an outcome that we didn't desire? Meaning, we arrest Hillary Clinton, she goes to Gitmo, put on trial, the whole 9 yards, and that's the catalyst that starts a global nuclear conflict. And I'm hypothetically throwing this stuff out there. I'm not saying that should be a reason or is being used as a reason or anybody told me that's a reason. I'm just saying hypothetically we can talk about these ideas, right? What if that was the case, or they saw that arresting her now would be would lead to that, but arresting her later won't? These are things you have to really, I think, have to start to comprehend. I know it gets into the whole like 7 to 12D chess area, but it's definitely something worth talking about. It's definitely something worth researching further, and I'm trying to research it, but there's a lot of info out there that talks about things that are almost impossible to verify. I know that if you think about it in the simplest form of what Project Looking Glass would be, then this is the easiest way to understand it. It is, in my opinion, the easiest way to kind of make this into a digestible set of, ideas that you can kind of understand how this technology is being used, right? Or would be used in theory. So I'm just putting that out there for you guys. You guys will tell me what you think down in the comments. Obviously, another thing to remember, and this is just kind of ancillary to it all, but these people are all covering up for each other. I think Hillary Clinton, I hope, will become indicted. I hope that she goes to prison for her crimes if she's found guilty by a jury, whether that's in Gitmo or in the U.S. court system. I don't really care. But I'll tell you this right now. She is obviously a huge major catalyst for all this. And this is where Q starts, talking about looking through the glass, talking about how Clinton, if it was ever uncovered, what she did with Haiti. What if that was Q telling us, if the world found out for certain that she had been doing these evil things in Haiti that have been alleged, that would lead to a global war, a nuclear conflict that would end, millions and millions of lives, if not more. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. And that would kind of lend itself to just the complete audacity of the way that they continue to do these things and get away with it. But I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. It's something worth noting and looking at. Not to mention the fact that we have Lindsey Graham making these cryptic little statements about how they found Soleimani's location and how it was magical. Obviously, magical talks about stuff, gets into the higher classification higher classified programs of intelligence data collection gathering that we can't really know about for sure. Just an interesting thing to kind of go over and to check out. Here's also the fact that this story came out. So video out from outside of Jeffrey Epstein's cell no longer exists. So that just magically disappeared. The federal prosecutor working on the case of the billionaire sex offender was also, or is also, the daughter of, you guessed it, James Comey, Maureen Comey, and the person who officially signed the document that told us about the videos disappearing just so happened to be the Maureen Comey, the daughter of James Comey. So absolutely nothing to see here. She's still working in the FBI, working the Jeffrey Epstein case, but nobody seems to really talk about that. So I guess that's something we have to just keep kind of getting deeper into. Now, of course, they're talking about this roundup of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. And I think this is just them trying to continue to feign their outrage and clean house now that Soleimani's gone. I think this may have been a part of the plan the whole time. I think that President Trump, we talked about this in the last episode, this was a part of a very calculated move to push further the Iran deal for peace and denuclearization. And it involved getting rid of Soleimani and getting rid of his top henchmen in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, who probably were hindering the efforts of Rouhani to broker some sort of peace. In my opinion, I'm not saying Rouhani's a good guy, or the Iranian radical dictatorship is a good thing, but you have to make a deal if you're going to denuclearize, if you're going to get peace, right? It's like we did with North Korea. Nobody's saying Kim Jong-un's a good guy, but you have to do what you have to do to make a deal. So I think that's my take on it. I just figured we'd talk about that. Plus, everybody keeps talking about this plane that went down, right? We talked about that briefly in the last episode. But now that it's coming out and it's looking more and more likely that it was not only shot down by the Iranians, but that it was shot down for a very specific reason, given the people who were on board that plane and why they were trying to leave the country at that specific time. It raises so many questions about what those people knew, how much information they were going to give to the rest of the world once they got out of Iran, and why they were fleeing Iran right when they were basically, I think, under the impression that imminent war was coming, right? Those are all good questions, and only time's really going to get to the bottom of all that. There's a lot of theories out there that some of my sources I talk to seem to think might be not so far-fetched, right? But I'm leaving that for you guys to kind of chew on. Not to mention here, finally, before we go, McConnell signs the Hawley resolution, which is going to force the trial to begin in the Senate, whether or not Nancy Pelosi brings the articles of impeachment. So just another checkmate on the Democrats. And yeah, that's the whole episode. And I hope that you guys enjoyed that. If you guys have any thoughts, theories, and comments, leave them down below. I want to hear it. I want to hear about what you think Majestic 12 is and the idea of Project Looking Glass. I know there's other projects that are associated with that, Project Pegasus, Project Aquarius. Those are all things that all speculative. Nothing's fact, not a lot of facts out about this stuff, and rightfully so. It's, if it is true, some of these things, they'd have to be one of the top most secure classified information you could imagine in this planet. So I'm just throwing it out there. I thought it was a good way to start and get going as far as the conversation, because I know a lot of you guys have been commenting on that. I've been seeing a lot about Project Looking Glass, and it was brought up to me recently by, some people I trust. And it's just an interesting thought, wouldn't you say? So that's where we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. A few more things before we go. Obviously, if you want to support the channel, come find me over on Twitter at JustinFormedU. I'm on JustinFormedNews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. BitChute.com/JustinFormedTalk. this is a great place you can sign up to subscribe to get the backup videos and a backup channel nonetheless. And if you guys haven't downloaded the Brave browser yet, what are you waiting for? It's free. Use the link in the description of this video. They'll make a contribution to this channel if you do, but it's a win-win because you get a free browser. It's an internet browser, just like Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, whatever, but it's better. And everyone will tell you, I know everyone I talk to and I use this, it's just better. It blocks ads. It makes the internet that much better. It's got a built-in VPN and a Tor browser if you know how to use those things. So it's got a lot of stuff, a lot of functionality, and it's just as good, if not better, than all the other major competitors to it. Did I mention it's free? Use the link in the description and download the Brave browser today, and that'll help support the channel as well. Also, if you want to support the channel financially, there's Patreon, patreon.com. It's a monthly donation. You set it and forget it. Now you're helping create content on this channel on a regular basis. I couldn't do what I do without your help and support, and your financial support has got me to continue to grow and to continue to be able to do what I want to do, which is tell you guys the truth and help first tell you guys about the grace and glory of our Lord, and then to tell you the truth as I know it, and you guys are there for me, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I also have a GoFundMe set up. If you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation, links to absolutely everything that we've talked about here will be in the description. And before we go, we're going to do a little segment that we do at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. And today I thought I'd use this very special verse that talks about the Christian life out of the book of Colossians, chapter 3, verse 12 through 17. It says, "Therefore, God's chosen ones, holy and loved, put on heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, accepting one another and forgiving one another if anyone has a complaint against another. Just as the Lord has forgiven you, so also you must forgive. Above all, put on love, the perfect bond of unity, and let the peace of the Messiah, to which you were also called in one body, control your hearts. Be thankful. Let the message about the Messiah dwell richly among you, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, and singing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs with gratitude in your hearts to God. And whatever you do, in word or in deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him." And that sums it up for me. Look, you have to just live a good life. It's so simple, but it's not easy. And you know this, you guys know this out there. Anything worth having is not easy. And the most worthwhile thing that we have in this world is God and the sacrifice made by Christ on the cross for our eternal salvation, and the Holy Spirit that lives in us. So we have to embrace that every day and live by the teachings. As hard as that is, practice forgiveness. Practice, understanding and tolerance. Yeah, you don't have to let somebody, rip you apart and treat you like garbage, but pray, look to God, ask God for help and advice and wisdom and courage and strength, and God will give it to you. And ask God for the wisdom to know what to do, to have that discernment, the ability to understand, what do I need to do, Lord, to become a better man or woman for you? And if you live that way, I guarantee you, your life's not only going to get better, but you're going to be able to help others grow and become stronger in their faith. And that's really what this is, because once the fire gets lit in your heart, you got to let it shine out into the world. And once you do that, then you can pull as many people in as you can and share that gospel of Christ and share that amazing gift of the eternal salvation that we've been given through the sacrifice made for our sins. So that's my message to you. Take that to your family, friends, loved ones, and just people you meet in the street. And if you live your life that way, I guarantee you it's going to only get better. No matter what happens, you'll have God, and that's what matters. But that's going to be it for me. The next thing I have coming up, guys, if you don't know, I'm going to be in Tampa, Florida, the Red Pill Roadshow this Saturday. You guys should be there. Getting on a flight in a few hours. I'll be down in Tampa, Florida. It's at MacDill Park in downtown Tampa, Florida. It's 3 to 7 p.m. on Saturday. You guys should be there and check it out. But That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching this episode. Remember to come here, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Also, hit it, punch it, tap it, bop it, twist it, whatever. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.